What's up, babe? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we're doing the podcast thing.
Yeah, I guess this is it. This is going to be our first one.
I'm excited.
I am too. I'm super excited because I feel like our story has changed so much from when we originally started our business. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to come on here and kind of share our story. You know, we started out as real estate agents, 10 years.
You actually started out.
I did about 10 years ago. And so, that has opened so many opportunities for us. And now I'd say we're real estate investors and, Airbnbs and entrepreneurs. It's opened even other business opportunities. So I think that this is a great way for us to kind of share our story and some of the lessons. So, for those of you who don't know us, we're Jason and Jen Catalanato. We're real estate agents in the Tampa Bay area. And we're just kind of here to talk to you about some of our journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got started years ago and got to a point where you were a little too busy. So I jumped in to help, and then we have created some really cool opportunities.
Yeah, it started with the team, and then from the team, we started investing, and now we're in the Airbnb world and, even considering some other business opportunities.
Right.
So,
and that's one of the things that I love about the real estate is we get to meet so many great people. And then some of those great people become friends. Some of those great people become friends and business partners.
Right. Yeah. And if we wouldn't have been in real estate, we wouldn't have met half of the investors and the clients that we work with that have now opened our worlds up to many other opportunities. Right. So I think, one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk to you about today was just kind of the Airbnb world and how we got into that, because I think it wasn't a typical journey and it was different than what I had anticipated, right? Like I thought that if we did the Airbnbs, we had to be in a super touristy area. We had to be in Orlando or over by the beaches. And you're really the one that kind of opened it up to me to realize that that isn't necessarily what you have to do if you're going to have an Airbnb.
Right. Yeah. And I think it almost happened on accident, right? I mean, we've had people over the past few years that were in between moves, or they were moving here from out of state, but their new build wasn't ready. And a lot of people can relate to that right now because all the new builds aren't ready. No builder's been on time for like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So you think you're moving here maybe in June and your house doesn't end up being done until August, September. What do, right? You come down here from maybe another state, another area, you bring your family, you've got U-Haul packed full of stuff, and now you realize, oh no, I sold my house in whatever state, and my new home's not quite ready. And we were getting clients that were calling us saying, hey, do you have anything furnished that we could move into for 3 or 4 months, which really is a midterm rental.
Right. And I think that, it started out, we started considering it because of necessity. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the other things was, we had a client come to us and he wanted, you actually represented him purchasing a home. And we're like, this is kind of in a weird location and we're like, what are you going to do with this? And he's like, we're going to turn it into an Airbnb. And we were kind of like, what? This guy's crazy. There's no way that this is what, this is not where you do an Airbnb. We were like completely concerned because it wasn't a cheap home. It was it was like an $800,000 home, and he was putting several $100,000 into it. And we're like, this guy's nuts. He's going to lose all this money. We were starting to feel guilty as like the agents, like wanting to protect what he was doing. And he clearly knew more than we did about what was the right thing to do. So we kind of watched his success. And then, again, we still were just kind of just doing our long-term rental thing. And then you presented it to me recently. You're like, I really think we should turn one of these units into an Airbnb. Right. And I had the same reaction still. I was like, what? Who would rent this out in the middle? It's in Dade City, guys. It's not like it's Dade City, Florida. Look it up. It is not.
It's like 45 minutes north of Tampa. There's no beaches around. There's no amusement parks. There's hardly
any grocery stores around. It wasn't anything that I kind of thought would do well as an Airbnb. And he's like, I'm running the numbers, and I guess explain how you even figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, we had this unit come up, and honestly, I was messing around one day and I just loaded the pictures into Airbnb, and they weren't even great pictures. Remember, these were like cell phone photos that I took with the blinds not even open, really poor lighting. And I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I'm like, let me just put some photos up real quick.
Same thing that you did with your car on Turo.
Yeah, basically. Yes. Everything's for rent, guys. And that's how it started. And I realized like an hour after I put up crappy photos of a listing that I've never Airbnb, that I didn't even have like all the stuff you need. I didn't have dishes. I didn't have irons. I didn't have forks and spoons and all the things that you need for an essential Airbnb, but I had furniture, right? So this thing booked after like an hour, and it booked for a week. And what I realized is I was renting this thing out for $16.95 a month, which was the highest in that market we have ever been able to obtain. And I got like $1,100 or $1,200 for 7 days. And that was the aha moment. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. If we did this out of a 1 week rental with really crappy photos and it not even being ready, what can we really do? If
Backstory on that though is you get these ideas. He puts it on there. It is not really an Airbnb. It not expecting it to rent. It rents, and all of a sudden I get the, oh my God, Jen, we got to finish this place. So I am
make it an Airbnb really quick.
Really quickly. I've never actually hated shopping as much as I did that weekend, but we pulled it off. We got it all put together. It looks beautiful now.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but kind of blew my mind. We're like, okay, like, well, we got lucky too. So I shouldn't say we did end up having the furniture because I had a client who decided to, he was selling his house and he didn't want the furniture anymore. So I bought all the furniture for like next to nothing. So I was like, well, we don't have a whole lot of risk in this, right? The expensive stuff we had. So I just had to go buy dishes and things. And so I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, again, still thinking if it doesn't work out, maybe we just got lucky that 1 week. And I have just been blown away with how much it has been renting. I think what it's rented all for the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah,
right?
It books just consistently now that we have it done right. And I think somebody checks in this coming Sunday and they booked it for 78 days. Which, you know, that's starting to get into that midterm section, right? And here it's a group of engineers that are coming into the market to work on the widening of the roads and the infrastructure because there is so much growth going to that area. We joke that there's not tourist attractions or beaches, but the market is growing, which is creating this demand for this short and midterm housing.
Right. And then there are a lot of new hospitals there, and it isn't really an area. So they're having a lot of travel nurses coming. So we're seeing a lot of that. So again, I think it just opened our eyes to that we need to be more, I think, open and willing to look at other areas when it comes to Airbnb, because we do have a cabin up in Tennessee that's in that very touristy area, and it's great. It's a great investment, and we still rent it all the time. But we were just talking literally in the car on the way here that with the way that the housing market is going, you know, we want to do more there, but it just doesn't make financial sense anymore.
I think we're hitting oversaturation, and we're getting to the point now where the prices have accelerated so much that it's diminished the returns, right? 2 years ago, it was the up and coming emerging market. We bought in at the right time, but now I can't make financial sense of it to buy at the current pricing with the current interest rates, knowing what the return is going to be. And I also feel that the return is going to slide a little bit because more and more cabins keep getting built there, right? So you're going to have more and more competition. And when you analyze things on the enemy method, and for those of you that aren't aware of the enemy method, if you have a short-term rental, you kind of log in as a consumer and you deep dive into your area and you literally compare your property versus your competition, your enemy, you know?
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing are the cabins are getting nicer. They're getting more extravagant. The pools are getting more unique. We know a builder recently, he just spent $300,000 just on the pool for his cabin just to make it super unique. So what does that do now to the other ones? If you just have a normal pool versus somebody that just spent $400,000 on a pool, obviously the consumer is going to be more attracted to that higher end product, you know?
Right. And I think that the other thing too for us is, you know, when you go into those big areas like that's a very, like the cabin, for example, it's an expensive property. It's a very unique property. It's not some place where people are going to just rent it as a rental. Right. So you have to Airbnb that property. Correct. Where I think like the safety net with the other ones is that we know that they work as a traditional rental. So let's say, you know, something happens and it ends up not being a great, you know, the returns aren't there on the Airbnb anymore. It's just not what you really want to do. We can easily flip that back into just a traditional rental. Yeah. And I think it's just a little bit safer way to get started in it. What do you thought?
I agree. Yeah. These non-peak areas where you don't have the compression events of the beaches or, you know, like we have Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, but you get into the suburbs of America and where the growth is going and where you're not picking up the travel touristy person, but you're picking up that family that's displaced or that job that's trying to find their employees some temporary housing, or you pick up the family members that are just coming in town to visit their other family, but they don't want to stay in a hotel. You know, you're picking up different things. But what's interesting to me is the competition is so much smaller, right? So now you almost, when we were analyzing Dade City, I really couldn't even do the enemy method because there was nothing else.
I found one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can easily be nicer than this one.
Right.
So.
And that's the point, right? There's just not the competition there. So with that being said too, the pricing isn't as crazy as some of these touristy destinations. And I already know based on the history, because we've rented 10 of these out on the street for the past 5 years, I know what I can get for it for rent if the Airbnb market slows down or dies off in that particular area.
Right. And so, you know, I would say if, let's say I'm going to just be like play devil's advocate here. So I'm like the brand new consumer coming. I'm a buyer that says, you know, I really want to get into Airbnbs, but you know, where do I even begin? What are your thoughts on that? Like, how would you advise somebody at this point?
So I would just go right, you know, right where we're looking right now. Go to the suburbs of Tampa right now. I mean, if you look into the heart of Tampa, there are a ton of Airbnbs. But one of our other really successful Airbnbs that we're managing right now is in Lutz. It's in Lutz, Florida, which again, no beaches, no amusement parks. There's no compression events that really drive people to that area, but it's rented all the time, and we're bringing in solid numbers, $8,000 to $10,000 a month off of a 3-bed, 2-bath pool home in a suburb of Tampa. You can't touch those returns in some of these other areas.
Well, in what areas? So I know that one's in Lutz, but I mean, obviously they can't go into an HOA community.
Correct.
So that's kind of another reason why it pushed us out to the Dade City area, because a lot of these areas have these HOAs. As far as like just kind of getting started, like what do you recommend for somebody?
So I think first we've got to dial in the budget, right? Let's figure out what's that budget that you're comfortable with spending, and then what are the returns that you're looking for on that budget. And then from there, I can kind of start deep diving into the financials of the different markets. And then we can start pinpointing different pockets or different areas that I think are going to get us to that return. And then we go from there. But to your point, you know, when you start filtering out HOAs, especially in the suburbs of Tampa, you get very limited results back, because I feel like our whole market was built by developers with these master plan communities to act like everything's a resort, and they're great. We live in one, but the problem is you can't do less than a 12-month rental.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I would say, and then as far as the management goes, you know, we just started managing our own properties. We always manage the long-term rentals. We just started managing the short-term.
On the short-term,
yes. Anything that you think, advice on that, and you know.
So I'm kind of a tech nerd, so I love diving into the different technology, the different software that helps us figure out how do we maximize the return, right? So I talked about earlier about the enemy method. We have dynamic pricing software that literally will change the pricing just like hotels do, right? As more demand comes in on that day or those dates, then it's automatically going to change the pricing, right? In how do we make our listing? You know, I've got other software now that's how do we move our listing to page 1 of Airbnb? What keywords are people typing in when they're searching on Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Expedia, Google? What words are people looking for that I can tie into our listings now to make us the primary homes that come up?
Right. And I think the other thing too, that we were just literally having this conversation with a family member who also owns a cabin in Tennessee. And we were just kind of talking about really understanding when you're hiring a management company on short-term rentals, what you're getting yourself into, right? We have learned a lot, especially you have learned a lot on what they do and different hidden fees and like things that you just don't even know you're paying. So I think it's just really important to like understand that aspect of it. So that's one of the main reasons why you started the short-term rental, you know, management side of it, because we just felt that, you know, the marketing wasn't being done correctly and the fees were outrageous. And so I guess on a short-term rental, what is a typical fee that they should be considering?
So we're seeing in a lot of the touristy markets are 25 to 30%. You know, I think hyper locally, I'm seeing within our Tampa St. Pete market, it seems to be 18 to 25%. Now, you know, don't get so concentrated just on that number, guys, because there's other factors involved, right? Like, are you making any money off your cleaning fees, or are they just charging you the actual cleaning fee and then they're marking it up and keeping that profit? Are they marking up on the consumer facing side another 5% baked in? You know, there's a management company out there that's super notorious for mass targeting homeowners and saying, I'll manage your property for 10%. Well, what they're doing, they're not explaining to you, is they're charging another 10 to 12% on the consumer facing side that they're keeping and never putting on your owner statement. So you're really not paying 10% because the client's willing to pay 12% more per night for your house that you're never receiving.
Right.
So in the end, they're still getting their 22%.
Yeah.
They're just marketing it different. And those are some of the things that I'm finding homeowners have no idea about.
Right. Yeah. And I will say it's been an interesting ride, though, with the Airbnbs, first of all, you don't realize how much it takes just to even furnish them and get going. So I think having a realistic budget with that. But then also just, it's just funny. I just feel like there's always something that, comes up. So I know why we do the management side, but I would highly recommend if you're looking at doing an Airbnb, I know it seems like a lot, that 20%, but hire a company that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, a good company is going to make up that percentage for you. And do you really want the 3 o'clock phone calls? Because it happens, guys.
All
it
the
happens
time.
all the time, right?
All the time.
2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning. They can't find this. They don't know where this is. How does the microwave work? And
10 o'clock at night for a broom.
Right.
I couldn't find
it's
a
just
broom.
weird things, right? But I mean, these are things that we do deal with. And luckily we have a great team in place that's available all the time to respond to these needs and keep the client happy.
Exactly. Cool.
So
I just thought it would be a good way to explain because, that was never something that we saw when we got into real estate as something that we would want to do. It was always just like, let's just do the sales thing. Not going to lie, you got into the property management side of things. I help a little bit with it, but I was like, no way am I going down
This
that.
is another one of my ideas. She's like, I don't want anything to do with
nothing.
it. You're doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Don't ask me for anything.
Absolutely.
And now here she is furnishing them all.
That was by necessity because if I left you to do it, oh my gosh, it would be a disaster. But no, it's just funny because I will say the property management side of things, and I still don't really want anything to do with it. I give you a lot of credit for handling that. But, we really never thought we would get into the short-term rental game. And it's just been a game changer for us. I think that, the possibilities with it are huge. I'm excited. We're turning 2 more of our long-term rentals into short-term rentals.
Zephyr Hills and Dade City, guys.
Again,
so look up that area.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's awesome. And I think that it's just opened our eyes. I think a lot of people want to get into this world and they just feel like they have to have this huge amount of money and they have to go in these big touristy areas. And I honestly think that we're doing better on the ones that we don't go into these big areas because there's more opportunity there.
Right. And what's interesting to me is now the companies that we've connected with, that we've become a partner with, who are insurance displacement companies, right? You don't think about this, but what if somebody has a flood, a fire, or something that makes their house uninhabitable for some period of time? The insurance company actually hires a third-party company to go find them temporary housing, and they need that housing to be furnished and it to be in a similar area. And insurance companies, they pay a premium for it, right? Yeah. So, you're getting more money for those. We've also been connected recently with several companies that work for larger corporations that have everything from traveling engineers to traveling doctors to traveling nurses to even linemen we've seen, right? So there's companies out there that even big corporations hire for temporary housing as well. So I think it's interesting. We're making more and more connections to open the possibilities up for more and more even of the midterm rental, which is stuff that isn't really transacting on Airbnb and VRBO and Expedia and Booking, but the returns are really good.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I will say that's kind of nice too, because you don't have so many turnovers, you don't have as many expenses. So not only are you getting a premium, but you're not having to pay cleaning fees every single week and all these other things. So I think that it's a really great, I think it's amazing. I honestly, I'm going to have to say that you were right on that one because I did not. And that's really, really painful.
We are recording this, right?
Yeah. It's really painful for me to say, but I will say I never in a million years thought that this would be something that would work out. Yeah. And, I'm excited. And I think that now that we've gone down this road, we've learned a lot of lessons on certain things. And as we've kind of, I think, come up with a system with it, we're definitely going to start looking for those deals and sending those out to our investor clients because we can't do all of them, right? And so but we definitely can help furnish them and manage them and do all of that. So if this is something that you are really considering, please reach out to
Reach
us
out,
because this isn't something that you just put out on the MLS or,
Correct.
it's not a normal real estate transaction. A lot of times, I will give you a lot of credit. He's out fishing for these deals. He's always looking. And I know you called somebody the other day on one. You're like, hey, I found one. I can't do it.
Yep.
Think this would be a really good opportunity. And
we're even willing to go in, right? We have partners in all types of real estate, guys, and even all types of other businesses. So if there's something that you maybe want to get in, but you don't want to go in all the way, talk to me about it because we may be willing to come in, or we even may be able to bring in other partners on it. If it makes sense and it makes money, we can always find a way to get it funded.
Right. Yeah. And it's just been a huge opportunity. I'm excited to see what they keep doing. And like I said, the ones that we've had, they've been long-term rentals. So if we say, we didn't really like that one, we can always make it go back. Right. But as of right now, we're doing our thing.
Going down this path.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, let us know if you guys want any information on it.
All right. Sounds good.
Cool.
Talk to you later.
Thanks.